Working the night shift can often feel like stepping into a different world, where silence stretches long, shadows seem to deepen, and the mind begins to play cruel tricks. Yet for some, what they experienced during those lonely hours was not imagination at all, but truly horrifying moments that left them shaken for life. And one such story comes from a hospital janitor named Elias, who was assigned to clean the psychiatric wing of an aging facility, a section that at night felt more like an abandoned prison with its peeling paint, flickering lights, and echoing corridors. And though the patients were kept in a separate secured area, Elias often felt a strange heaviness when he worked there, especially near the old storage rooms that had not been used in decades. And one night, as he pushed his cart past those very doors, he heard the distinct sound of a child giggling, high-pitched and playful, echoing down the empty hall, a sound that froze him in place, because no children were anywhere in that wing. And as he turned, he saw what looked like a small shadow dart across the corridor too fast to be a trick of light, and his skin crawled as the giggling grew louder, circling him, though no one was there. And though he tried to shake it off and finish his shift, when he returned to his cart, every item on it had been rearranged, neatly in a perfect row, the mop handle pointing like an arrow down the darkened hall, and Elias quit the job within the week, never able to forget the childlike laughter that had followed him home in his dreams. The second story involves a young woman named Marissa, who worked the night shift at a gas station in a small rural town, a lonely post where few customers ever stopped after midnight, and she passed the hours listening to the hum of the refrigerators and the occasional sound of a passing car on the distant highway. But one night she noticed something strange on the security monitor, a tall figure standing at the edge of the parking lot, unmoving and half hidden in the shadows. And though she thought at first it was a trick of the grainy footage, when she looked out the window, she could just barely make out the outline of a man standing perfectly still, facing the station, watching. And her unease grew as the hours dragged on, and the figure never moved closer, never moved away, just remained there as though studying her. And when she called the police, they arrived 20 minutes later only to find nothing, assuring her it was probably just someone passing through. Yet as soon as they left, and the store returned to silence, she looked back at the monitor and nearly screamed, for the figure was standing much closer now, directly in front of the glass doors. And yet when she turned her head toward the doors themselves, there was nothing there. The parking lot was empty, but on the monitor he remained, staring in with eyes that glowed faintly white in the static fuzz. And from that night on, she refused to work alone again, haunted by the idea that something had been waiting just beyond the glass. The third story comes from a security guard named Thomas, who worked the overnight shift at a sprawling warehouse on the outskirts of town, a massive place filled with stacked crates, machinery, and endless rows of shelves. And though the building was supposed to be empty at night, Thomas often heard strange metallic clanging and footsteps echoing through the aisles, footsteps that seemed to retreat whenever he approached, but returned the moment he turned his back. And one particularly cold night, as he made his rounds, he noticed that one of the security cameras had been knocked offline, its feed static. So he decided to investigate the far corner of the warehouse where it was located. And the deeper he went into the maze of shelves, the colder the air became until his breath was visible, though the heating system was running. And then he heard it, a whispering voice calling his name, soft at first, then growing louder, echoing through the cavernous space. And though he shouted back, demanding to know who was there, the only answer was mocking laughter that seemed to come from everywhere at once. And as he shone his flashlight between the shelves, he caught a glimpse of a face peering out from the shadows, impossibly pale, its eyes wide and unblinking. Before vanishing the moment the light hit it, and in his panic he fled back to the office, only to find the camera feed restored, showing the very aisle he had just fled from. But now on the monitor there was a figure standing still in the shadows, looking directly into the camera, its mouth curled into a grin. And Thomas resigned the next day, unwilling to ever patrol that warehouse again. These three accounts lies, haunted by a giggling child in the psychiatric ward, Marissa watched by a phantom figure at her gas station, and Thomas pursued by a whispering presence in the warehouse share, a chilling truth about working alone at night, that beyond the emptiness and isolation, there may lurk unseen presences that feed on the silence, manifesting in ways that defy explanation. And though each person walked away physically unharmed, the scars left on their minds were far deeper. For once you hear laughter in an empty hall, once you see eyes on a monitor that don't exist in the real world, or once you hear your own name whispered in a place where no one else should be, you can never again step into the night without wondering what waits in the darkness, watching, waiting, and perhaps even smiling.